session about Reception 2023. We hope you find this really informative and it answers any questions about your child's onward journey and their next start of their education. So our Little and Close Early Years building, we are so lucky here because we have a purpose-built building that was built only 3 years ago, especially for our early years children. So our building encompasses 2 to 5-year-olds, so we have nursery, preschool and reception within one building. I'm sure you can understand this really helps with transition because the children are aware of their space and their surroundings and they know what's expected of them within the parameters of our space. We have a beautiful garden that we are very, very proud of. It's quite unique for this area to have such a large outdoor space for children to explore, and this outdoor learning continues to be really, really important for our reception children. Our reception buildings classrooms remain in the building, which, as I said, is really important for their transition if they are joining us from our preschool into our reception. And our classrooms and our ethos is exactly the same in the spaces, very calming, very neutral, and really inviting space for our children to learn in. So our ethos, what will your children experience when they're in reception? This is their first year of school. It's a really, really big time for them, for you as parents. We have a lot of emotional parents when the children join a reception, and that's again what our staff is here to support you with as well. We want our children to build independence. We want them to come in knowing how to put on their coat and learn how to write, learn how to spell their favourite word, send a card home to their grandparents on a special occasion, and we want them to do that independently. We want to nurture them. We treat your children like our own. We love and care and adore them, and I think that really echoes in the way that they enjoy coming to school. We want to inspire them. We want them to come in and be amazed by what they see. We don't want them to go, oh, it's maths time now. We want them to be excited and say, Mummy, I learned what number 5 looks like today. I learned how to add 10 and 5. And by inspiring them with exciting lessons, that's how we will create those children that awe and wonder. And we want to challenge them. I don't want the children to come here and just coast. I want them to really, really excel in their learning, and that can be achieved in many ways. They might need extra support for that, and that's okay. They might really excel in something creative and find writing a little bit more tricky, and that's okay, as long as they are challenged and us as teachers and staff make sure the children's needs and challenges are met. That's what's really important to us. So transitioning from preschool to reception. Now, not all children will be in preschool full time, and that is okay. I'm not saying for a child to be ready to come to reception, they need to have attended preschool 5 days a week since they were 2 years old. I'm not saying that, but the transition from preschool to reception for some children can be a big jump. They're in full time, they're here all the time, and some children may find that exhausting. Some parents might find that exhausting because they've got to bring them every day, but that's all part of starting big school, and that's how we sell it to the children. It's really exciting. You're starting big school in September and starting to help them understand what that change means. So our reception class teachers are physically in the building, so if your child attends our non-close preschool, they will know those teachers already, which is really important. Reception teachers, rightly so, become a very important part of your child's life, and they really become an important person that child can speak to and relate to and be comfortable around. So it's important they do know that staff member. Now, if your child doesn't attend non-close preschool, of course, they will have many opportunities to meet that member of staff and get to know that person. So we do transition events for families. So starting from our reception isn't just about the children starting, it's about the families starting. We want you to get to know different people, we want you to see the other children in your child's class, we want you to meet our whole team. So we will do a teddy bears picnic, which the children love, as you can imagine. We make it really exciting and interactive for them, and it's about an opportunity for them to meet other children in their class and have a really fun activity afternoon. We'll do stay and play events multiple times throughout the year, but particularly in the summer term we will increase those for children joining us in reception, and it just makes them feel a little bit more comfortable and ready for that reception step. And then we do preschool graduation for our non-close children, which is the highlight of my year. It is lovely. So I'm not going to give too much away because it's a really lovely event for parents to attend, but it just makes them understand that, okay, preschool's finished finished now, I'm ready for my next challenge, which is fantastic, and it makes them feel very important, and it's a real fantastic event in our calendar. So we really encourage for our preschool children to access our reception classrooms. As I've already said, our building is accessible for all children. So we try and encourage the children to just take a few more steps up the corridor so they can spend time in reception classrooms, and it's just part of our free flow model. Preschool join reception for story time, so really simple things, just listening to a story from a different adult in a different room really helps them to start to understand, this is my classroom, this is my teacher, this is where I'm going to be. Really small steps. I do a parent workshop as well to help you understand what being long close ready for reception is, just giving you a few tips about what you could be doing with your children at home over the summer break. We know the summer break is quite a long time, and it's really important that you continue to build that independence for your child, what they've learned in preschool. And then it's just about gradually building familiarity with adults. I'm not expecting any child to come into reception and be like, I know what I'm doing, everything's fine, I'm going to talk to this teacher really confidently. Everyone takes time, and some children may be a little bit more nervous for longer, and some children may find their stride really quickly. But that's why transitioning is really important, to make it personal. So if we know there is a child that may find transition a little bit harder, we put things in place straight away. And then, of course, the classrooms are in the same building. They look very familiar, resources are familiar, and they still access the same garden. So this is how we make it as smooth as possible. You'll also get a transition booklet, which is really useful over the holidays because there's photographs of staff, and if there is any new members of staff, you can say to your child, oh, this is Mrs. or Mr. and this is what they look like, this is where your classroom is, this is what the toilets will look like, and it just continues that conversation really well. A good top tip as well is maybe a week before this term starts, put your child's uniform, get them to put their uniform on, make them feel really proud. Don't make it a scary thing. Say, wow, you look amazing, you look so smart. But not too long before, because children don't have much of a time scale. They don't really understand timelines, so they might think they're starting reception next week because children, they don't develop that skill yet. We will work on that when they're in reception. So how will your child learn in reception? So we will have whole class sessions. Bear in mind our classes are very small, so still really personalised learning. It will still be specific to individual children's needs. So we will challenge and we will support different children whilst on that carpet. So that will be teacher-led. We then will do small group activities, and this will be when other children may be accessing the provision independently. So it will be an adult-led activity, so it could be writing a letter to Goldilocks. That activity may be done in a group of 3 or 4 with the class teacher, so to make sure the children are supported and challenged effectively. So all adult-led activities will link to what they have done in this whole class session. Individual or one-to-one activities, really important, and something we are excellent at Long Close. We make sure children are supported and challenged through one-to-one teaching. This could be phonics, this could be friendship groups, this could be maths understanding, this could be speech and language. Depends on the individual child, and they will receive one-to-one support in an area. And then free flow. So free flow is really important. For a person that maybe doesn't go into the early years too often, they might just think children are playing and they're just doing what they want. But what's really important is the teacher will set up the classroom in a very specific way about what the children need to be developing, what the children are learning about that week, and there'll be activities around that the children can access. Before they go off from their whole class teacher session, the teacher will explain what is out in the classroom, what they can be doing, what skills they're developing. So that free flow activity is so important for that independence. It's making them see, oh look, there's some numicon on that table. That means I can do some maths with that. I'm going to practice my counting and putting the numicon in order from 1 to 10. That's independence, and that's when us teachers know that they've really understood something. So this is our sort of 4 pillars of learning in reception, and every element is just as important as the other. So our curriculum. Now, in the early years, the curriculum is like a foreign language to some parents, and often I find myself spouting off about it, and parents looking at me going, Mrs. Carpenter, please slow down. But to make it, put it in the simplest form, I've just used the headers of what the areas of learning are. So, prime areas of learning. So these are the most important areas, and that's what's focused on from birth. So the early years is from birth. So communication, language, language, personal, social, emotional skills, physical development. So if we think about it in a logical way, communication language is our speaking. That enables us to be social and make friends, personal, social, emotional. And then physical development is physically moving around and their personal care as well. So that they are our prime areas because they kind of underpin everything else. So we will always be concentrating on those areas, and that's where our independent learning, self-initiated learning comes into play, where those areas may be covered around the classroom, and we can cover them in different topics as well. And then the specific areas of learning is literacy, so our reading and writing, maths, which will be numbers and shapes, understanding the world, which is almost, I guess, science for early years, and religion and families, and looking at climate change, all things like that. That's how we would cover that in reception. And expresses art and design is physically being creative, as well as doing role play and things like that, and music and singing. So this is how we think about our learning every single week. We look at every single area of learning and make sure we cover them. So all of our learning is based around the children's interests. We are not a school where we think in October of 2022 we did spiders, so in October 2023 we have to do that again. We don't want to do that for our children. We want to make sure that children are fascinated and interested in what they're learning about. So we find out what they want to know, and we ask them, what do you want to find out about? We physically make a mind map for the children. Some ideas maybe aren't necessarily school appropriate, but in some ways we can mould them to make sure that they do cover those areas of learning. So it makes our classrooms really exciting. It makes the weeks sometimes seem a little bit all over the place in some ways, because one week we might look at pirates, the next week we might be looking at deserts, for example, kind of similar, I guess. But it makes it about the children, because that's what it should be about. I always say to parents, imagine being told you're going to have to do a 6-week knitting workshop, and you think, well, I don't want to do that. That's where this is really special, because we think about what the children want to learn about, and we make sure that we're teaching them absolutely what they need to achieve by the end of the year, but in a way that's exciting to them. So we might do a stunning start on something where Goldilocks has come into the classroom, one of the chairs is broken, there's porridge all over the floor, and we've got to work out where she's gone or who was it. So we start in a really exciting way, which again inspires our children. So how do we achieve accelerated progress? Now, I know as parents you want the best for your children, and as teachers we want the best for your children too. So by having our child-centred approach to learning, i.e. the children choosing their learning and dictating their learning, that's how we can accelerate that progress, because they're immediately interested. Their interests and barriers are identified immediately. By having small classes, I know your child by day 4 in September. I know what makes them tick, what makes them upset, I know what food they won't eat, I know what they find really tricky, who their friend is, what their sister, auntie, brother's name is, because we can and we want to get to know your children. So we find that out straight away. Early intervention for all, so it could be that there is one specific area of learning that a child finds challenging. It might be that they cannot recognise the word the. So for 1 week they have a little bit of intervention and they practice. So it's not just for specific children, it is for all. There's challenging learning experiences to make sure the children are continuing with their accelerated progress. Specific and targeted phonics lessons. I will speak about phonics again in a moment. Highly qualified reception teachers and teaching assistants. There's a breadth of experience in this building, and no one is afraid to ask for help either. So if anyone ever wants an idea, we will always ask other people. Our small class sizes, our small group work each day, so it's not just once a week. And then 90% of our children last year exceeded or achieved age expected at the end of reception in reading, writing and maths, which is an amazing achievement for our children. Exceeding the expectations at the end of reception is a huge, huge feat, and a lot of our children did it, which is brilliant and also very, very unusual. So we're really, really proud of our children. So last year we were 20% above national average at the end of reception, and that improves year on year. So it's a percentage that we are really proud of. At the end of reception, that's when the early years finishes. So it's almost, we have to summarise their entire achievements of the early years, and that's something I will talk to you about in another occasion about what we look at the end of reception as. We've got an inspiring new environment which is continuing to evolve and improve. We're constantly looking at what we can add in, what do we need next. Exciting and varied learning experiences, so we go on trips, we get people in, we have animals in, we go to the park, we go on nature walks, we use the facilities around us to make sure the children are inspired. We have specialised teaching for extracurricular activities. We're nurturing and family orientated school. Whenever I talk to parents, they say long close is family, and that's really important. I want parents to come in and know that the other people around them are going to care for their children too. We have really flexible hours for our wraparound care, which I know in this evolving world of home working and possibly going into the office or going to work, wherever you go, that's really important. We have support for parents and we have excellent behaviour. By having high expectations of our children, our behaviour is excellent too. So phonics. So phonics is a really, really important part of the early years curriculum. Some preschools won't do phonics. Us at our preschool, we do phonics, and we're really proud of how much progress our children make. So we're a model read writing school, which means basically our results are amazing, which is great. The children end reception, year 1, preschool, way above national average, and they are ready to read and they end for their phonics scheme as readers. We have differentiated groups which are no larger than 10 usually, so these groups will change every 6 weeks if needed. We don't want a child to continue doing something that they know already or they are finding really, really challenging and they need that little bit more support. Parent workshops, so I will teach you exactly what your children are learning, which is really important because phonics is hard. As parents, you won't have done phonics at school, so it's not going to be something you go home and go, oh, I know exactly what I did. I did this myself. And they come home with rhymes, they come home with all sorts of things, and you'll want to know that yourself. We use differentiated books, so this is just an example of some of the ones that we would use, and they are specific to the sounds the children are working on and the words that they need to learn. So they go up in different colours and gradually the children will have different ones. You'll get these at home as well as a home reader book. So lots and lots of reading to inspire your children. There's one-to-one intervention as well in phonics, which is really specific. It's from Mrs. Diol. She's extremely experienced, extremely highly trained. She knows exactly what the children need to do to move on their reading. And then we build on the knowledge from preschool to begin reading singular words. So everyone comes up at different stages, and that's absolutely fine, and we work on what each child needs to learn. So Busy Bees, this is our free flow learning. They have access to all the different classrooms, the different learning environments. They can start working on that communication language or their physical development or understanding the world, depending on what is set up. Reception children become the role models to our younger children, which you can really see how proud they are. Being a family school in this building, there are lots of siblings and cousins and neighbours, so they love being around the younger children and being able to teach them how to do things. My favourite moment is often when I spy a reception child with a younger child reading them a story. That really makes me think, okay, we're doing this right here. This is exactly what we want for our children. It builds independence. Adult-led activities go alongside of it whilst the children are independently accessing resources, and it consolidates their learning because, as I said earlier, it shows me whether they understand something or if they're not so sure about something. And it's really exciting. What child doesn't want to get involved in a tray of paint with animals stomping through it and they're going to look at the different size animals, for example? They want to get involved, and that's great. So lunchtime, a really, really important time in your child's day, and probably is my most asked question from parents. How does lunchtime happen? Now, I'm actually in a multi-purpose room at the moment. Some parents will know it, some parents will not. But it's a space that becomes our lunch hall as well at lunchtime. So children don't have to go over to the main school, which sometimes for some children can be quite worrying for them. It's another change to add to their reception year. So they stay in here again with the other children. The slight difference with reception children is they will have a little lunchtime ticket and they hand that to someone who is serving the food, which tells them exactly what they can and can't have. So these are colour-coded depending on dietary needs, whether they're vegetarian, whether they can eat certain foods, and then they will choose what food they will like and the staff will serve it, and then they have to, most importantly, carry their tray across to their table, which again is a big skill. So that's how we sort of change it a little bit to make sure they're more independent. They become our lunchtime monitors, they will help support other children, they'll help clear tables. So lunchtime is a big thing, but we make sure the children feel safe and secure when they're in here. Maths. So we cover maths, as I said earlier, in a really, really exciting way. I don't want anyone to say, oh gosh, it's maths time now. Sometimes the children will not even know they're learning maths, which is great. So it's whole class or small groups, just as we would do other subtypes of learning. There'll be an adult-led activity again to consolidate their learning, and they're really, really carefully thought out activities. There might be an activity on a table that is actually measuring, and they'll have no idea that it's maths and think, this is the best thing ever, I'm measuring how much water is in this jug, and I'm knowing that this is full and half full, and it's got 500 millilitres in this jug, and this one's got less. They don't realise that's maths learning, and that's perfect. That's where they've really, really achieved something great. So we do a mastery approach to acquire deep thinking. So we ask them why. Well, how did you get to that? Why do you think that's happened? How has that happened? Rather than just telling us an answer, we want to know why they got, how they got there, why they got there. So extracurricular. Our timetable is jam-packed and it's exciting. And we have specialised teachers to make sure we cover all of our different areas. So we go swimming at Windsor Leisure Centre every week. We have music with our director of music, we have dance with our dance teacher, we do yoga every week, we have PE with our director of sport, and we do Spanish with our Spanish teacher. So the children get a well-rounded curriculum in reception, and it's exciting for them to learn these different things that actually is really, really unique to start at such a young age. Swimming is fantastic because as teachers, we don't know how the children can swim usually, and we go to swimming lessons and we're like, wow, they can really swim, rather than just telling us at the weekend. Some parents use this as a tip, yeah, they've got their swimming lesson for the week. Some parents love to take them for an additional swimming lesson, it's totally up to you, but it's great that they get to swim with their friends, so it's a really fantastic weekly activity. So communication is absolutely key. We want to make sure you're well informed. When the children join us, we do baseline assessments. This is not me sitting down next to your child and quizzing them and asking me, what's this, what's this, what's this. We do it in a really, really careful way to make sure they don't even realise we're trying to find out what they know and what they can, what they need to work on. And this gives us just a baseline to know where your child is at when they join us. You'll have a termly parents evening as well as termly progress reports. So the progress report will be followed by parents evening to help us discuss any next steps and any support you need. You'll get a written report at the end of the year, and this includes the good level development data at the end of reception. And this is something I'll go into detail more in another time. And this is basically what your child has achieved in the whole of their early years and where they are at. If necessary, we'll do a SEND referral, whether that's speech and language, whether that's an occupational therapist referral is needed, whatever is needed for a specific child, we will support you with those referrals. And each child will have specific learning targets which are ever evolving and ever changing, and you will also continue to get your child's online journals, which we use the programme Tapestry, so you continue to get that and get those regular updates, and parents, you can put your updates on there too. And then our timings, so as I said earlier, we're really flexible with our drop-offs and our wraparound care. So if you need a day that is from 8 until 6, that is available for you. If you need a day that's 8:30 until our regular 3:30, that is our school day, 8:30 till 3:30. Everyone's very, very unique, so the timings will work for everyone differently. But so you know, the wraparound care at the end of the day is always run by early years staff. So again, it's not another member of staff that they have to get used to. It's us. They probably go home and say, "Oh, we really want some time away from the early years staff." And then finally, what do our parents say? So a parent last year, lovely, exciting settings for my daughter to learn. Teachers are lovely. Wellbeing of students is very high. Fantastic. I couldn't ask for better feedback. Staff are so friendly, they make children feel welcome. I'm really impressed with my daughter's overall development. Fantastic feedback from our parents, and I hope if you are an existing parent or a parent to be, you will have this opinion of us as well once your child joins us in reception. So, I know it's a lot of information, I know it's a big step, but I hope I've given you enough information to sort of make you understand why Long Close is so special, why it's the best place for your child to continue their educational journey. And of course, if there are any questions, any queries, or any concerns, there is always my door open to answer any of those questions. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to speak soon.